get frequent headaches, dizziness, feel tingly sometimes, or have a hard time concentrating? How is your digestion? A little TMI, but how is it, really? Are you constantly feeling high levels of fatigue? You might have, and I just learned this word, you might have what is called electromagnetic sensitivity, or ES. It's a real thing caused by Wi-Fi, also known as EMFs or electromagnetic fields. Now, I had never heard about any of this, and then I started turning my Wi-Fi router off at night. It has been a game changer. I noticed my body being able to wind down and relax so much faster. It's weird. It's like I really do feel different. And even though all of this is a new concept to me, it isn't to my guest this week, who is so sensitive to EMFs or Wi-Fi that she spent 25 years researching it. She actually knew something wasn't right when she noticed how being around her first cell phone was severely affecting her health. And she found out that millions of other people have the same sensitivities, they just don't realize it. She is a leading expert backed by science on how to turn your home toxin-free, and her specialty is with technology. Every week on this show, I interview someone new in the society and culture space who has a jaw-dropping story or riveting expertise on a new subject. So make sure you're subscribed and pause right now. Leave me a 5-star review. Please welcome tech wellness expert and founder of, it's literally called Tech Wellness, August Brice. My audience is very familiar with health and wellness by now. I think I've drilled that into their mind since the beginning of the year. But what does tech wellness mean?
Well, tech wellness means being well with technology. And our platform, Tech Wellness, is a collection of information, experts, and solutions to empower people to live balanced and therefore healthier with technology.
Now, I tried to kind of explain in my way what EMF is and everything, but what is it and what does that stand for, EMF?
It's a mouthful and a big topic. I'll try to make it really simple to begin with. EMF stands for electromagnetic field. And there's this big spectrum of electromagnetic fields starting way down at the bottom with extremely low frequencies. And by the way, even natural EMF. And it goes all the way up the spectrum to gamma rays and X-rays. So that's electromagnetic fields. But today, when people are talking about EMF, especially in this conversation, we're mostly going to be talking about the wireless variety, which is on the spectrum of EMF. And those are called radio frequencies. And they have some magnetic components that stuff at the very low end. But radio frequencies are the EMF that power all of our wireless devices. And that means Bluetooth and cell phones and your Wi-Fi and your AirTags, anything that has a wireless component uses EMF RF waves. So, but people are just calling it EMF because it's simpler, and we're hearing so much about EMF because this wireless variety of EMF has grown exponentially in the last 20 years.
Now, here is the question that I want to answer today. Is Wi-Fi basically the new secondhand smoke?
Oh, I think you could lump Wi-Fi and cell phone radiation and, cell phone towers all into that title of secondhand smoke. And I love that you're saying that because I really want the guy next to me in the plane to turn off his computer when I'm sitting next to him and to take that Wi-Fi out of the airplane. I love that term, secondhand smoke, as a comparison to Wi-Fi energy. This energy is invisible. You cannot see it or smell it or touch it. Some people, like me, can feel it. And we're called people who have something called electromagnetic hypersensitivity syndrome or electromagnetic sensitivity syndrome or EHS. Some people just call it environmental illness. But we are people that have these certain symptoms where we can just feel the energy that's coming from the devices that, like I said, you can't see, smell, or touch. But it's got to be powerful, right? Because it's what allows data on our phone, a whole movie, to be downloaded in 2 seconds.
Okay, so there are people that have sensitivity to EMFs, they don't even know it. So a lot of, if you're experiencing a lot of adverse side effects with your health, it could be because of EMF sensitivity. What do those sensitivities look like? Okay,
for me, and this is how I knew immediately that I had the sensitivity. First time I picked up a cell phone, I could actually feel the energy of the phone. And to me, it's on video because it was a Christmas present over 34 years ago. And I put the phone up to my head and I go like this because I felt the tingling. I felt a thickness that like went into my head. And I was like, wow, what is that? And it took years and years and years to figure it out. But I know for a fact that if I'm sitting near a Wi-Fi, I will get a really amazing headache. And I don't get headaches. And so it's super easy for me to understand when I've got exposure, common exposure symptoms for a lot of people. And I've got a list. You want me to read it?
Yes, read the list. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, what's really great about this list is on our website, I have a whole story about electromagnetic sensitivity because it's me. And I'd gone to a conference in London. I interviewed a lot of different people who have it and how they got it. But I've got all these different symptoms, and each symptom has studies that verify that people have been in research studies have noted these particular symptoms. So
now wait, so is you being personally sensitive to EMFs, is that how you got into this whole like business of talking about tech wellness in the first place?
1000%. That's exactly why. Because I didn't have the ability physically to embrace the technology of my cell phone. I was fortunate. I could always use my computer plugged in to the internet, just like I'm using it now. But as far as like letting my cell phone become an appendage and buying everything, through my cell phone and working off my cell phone, that didn't happen to me. So I was able to see the other issues that are part of tech wellness and what we call the tech toxins, like cybersecurity issues and privacy issues and blue light, and then, obsessions and addictions with our phones. And so that's why we cover all of those things under the umbrella of tech toxins on tech wellness. But it all came from this amazing sensitivity, this search for why this was happening to me and what I could do about it. And that culminated in a website to share with others so that people will understand that there are some risks, and just by protecting ourselves and being mindful and aware, we can live better and healthier.
Well, August, there are going to be people that are like, what is this voodoo mama juju saying that
Right?
Wi-Fi is like secondhand smoke? They're going to think that we're full of crap, essentially.
Well, and that's interesting because yes, except research. And when I first started talking about this and thinking about it and searching for help for myself, I found what I carry now, these air tube headsets, and they stop the radiation from coming up to your ear. And in the process of working with the manufacturer, the person who held the patent, I heard this name, George Carlo. And I thought, oh, wait, I've seen his book. And he was the first person that really enlightened me and the world way back in 2002. He wrote a book called Cell Phones, Invisible Hazards of the Wireless Age, where he details the first really big research study done, by the way, by the Wireless Phone Industry Association called the CTIA. And he was hired to run the study. Towards the end of the study, they were researching rats and mice and exposing them to cell phone radiation. He found out that things weren't going well and they were seeing tumors and cancers. And he wrote a letter to all the big industry people at the time. There's a copy of the letter from AT&T on our website and in his book. And he says, we're not taking the precautions that we should be. We need to slow this thing down. And he was fired. And
what?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that seems kind of like a cover-up to make sure people didn't know how bad Wi-Fi could really be for our health.
And yeah, because Wi-Fi and cell phone radiation, it was all the same back then. There wasn't Wi-Fi. But when he was doing the first research study, yes. And so it's all in his book. And anyway, I called him and I said, hey, I know what you're talking about. I get it. I can feel it. And he said, well, it's not like you're magic. It's not like you're special. You're just sensitive to it. Something in your body. And it turns out that most people who end up having this sensitivity, that something in their body is some autoimmune issue, some trauma to the body that caused the sensitivity, just like sensitivity. Some people have sensitivity to smoke, some to chemicals, some to everything. It's part of the toxic load, but also our bodies just, weren't able to accommodate this particular toxin. I believe in adaptation, by the way. I believe that we can do things to fortify ourselves and protect ourselves from most of the toxins. I wish that they would all go away. I wish that this would be seen like secondhand smoke like you're talking about. Eventually, it probably will be. But anyway, I hope that I just answered your question.
No, absolutely.
We're talking?
Absolutely. Let's go through all the symptoms that you might have if you're sensitive to Wi-Fi.
Okay. Every single one of these has research to back it. Headaches, lack of appetite, digestion problems, anxiety, sleep difficulties, unstable moods, bursts of anger due to poor sleep, depression, fatigue, lack of concentration, irritability, memory problems, visual problems, vertigo or dizziness, tinnitus. This is the one that I hear about most, tinnitus, from my community, and then insomnia, abdominal swelling, burning pain in your hands, shoulders, legs, and feet. That's a symptom that I manifest frequently when I am in an environment that has a 5G tower, an airport, an airplane. That's my big symptom. Itching, edema, swelling, chills, photosensitivity, heart palpitations, difficulty breathing, cystitis, skin rashes, heightened sensitivity to touch, smells, chemicals, light, and noise. That's a big list.
You know what's coming to mind for me, August, is I feel like we're going to look back on EMFs like we do on birth control now, like essentially knowing that we were poisoning ourselves.
Well, it's amazing. I think you're right, but I think it's going to take either a lot of talking with our wallets or, there's been amazing investigative reports. I just have been involved with this for so long. I am so surprised that we're still where we are. I mean, I love that you're talking about it because that's going to enlighten even more. But like I said, we have thousands of research studies, really good, double-blind, peer-reviewed, published research studies that show a link between this invisible radiation and a health effect, from infertility, from changes to our sperm count and the motility and viability of sperm, to increase in miscarriages, to babies that have been exposed, or mice babies. This was done by Hugh Taylor, Yale University head of reproductive sciences there, did this great research where he exposed baby mice or pregnant mice to cell phone radiation, then followed the babies through their lifespan, and they showed ADHD-like behaviors and changes in their brain. Now, this is a published study. Dr. Taylor talks about this study. How many women are aware of this study?
Now, here's a crazy thing, but do you think that we almost need black box labels on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth-capable products?
For sure. In fact, there is a black box label in your phone. And there's probably one on your computer. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you look, it's required actually by the FCC. And I can read it to you, but Berkeley attempted to have this warning label put in cell phone stores in Berkeley, and it had to be up by all the cell phone displays and in the window. And they succeeded. The cell phone industry took them to court. This was like in 2014, 15, 16, took them to court. They appealed it. They won. And then the cell phone industry took them to court again, and they lost because the judge said that it was over-warning. Over-warning, because it was already in your phone, in the manual.
Meaning it's too noticeable. We don't want the warning to be that visible. We need to hide it somewhere else.
I think that's exactly what they were saying. That's a very good point.
Is it true that thyroid health can be affected by EMF exposure?
Oh, absolutely. There are 2 or 3 studies that I have on our website that point to an increase, and I'm not sure if it's, it's not an issue that I personally have, but it's an increase in T3 or T4, a decrease. Anyway, it absolutely changes thyroid function. The exposure does. And, Alex, we have to know that not 100% of the time for 100% of the people. just like 100% of the people that smoked didn't get lung cancer or emphysema.
Right.
But enough, there was, and it started with the same way with the tobacco industry. There was the pushback. There were the questions. There were so many things that were misleading. And now we know today that wouldn't it have been great to have had this term caveat emptor, buyer beware. And that's what I'm hoping people get the message of today. Just be aware, be cautious. And there's something called the precautionary principle. And until we know for absolutely sure that they're safe, and I know for sure that they're not safe, and I know that there hasn't been a safe level of exposure that has been proven. So for me, it's a really easy thing to adapt into my life, of course, because I can feel it. And secondly, it's easy for me to talk about because that I know that it's so true with all this research backing it up. Oh, and by the way, when the cell phone industry funds a study, the results are different more times than not.
Well, I'm not shocked about that at all, August, because I'm thinking of, big pharma and all these other things we know are corrupt. They have a business interest in keeping things hidden or saying like, oh, well, the results show this.
Right.
Well, how come they're completely different than what someone else finds? I have been very into beauty things for as long as I can remember. I mean, I remember buying my first serious eye cream when I was 18. And the thing is, that's not everybody's story. I know that. Maybe you weren't into skincare or makeup or any of that until very recently. Could have been yesterday for all I know. This could be the first time in your life that you've started thinking about investing in your skin. And let me tell you something, some good news. It's never too late. A great place to start if you're a beginner is with Nimi Skincare. They're conservative owned, made in the USA, and they are a luxury skincare brand at a fraction of the price. You can get your cleanser, toner, moisturizer for less than $100. And those are prices you won't even get at the drugstore for anything with decent ingredients nowadays. My recommendation is this, okay? Here's the 3 products I think you should start with. Get the vitamin C cleanser to use after you remove your makeup. It has an extremely gentle exfoliation that's great for even the driest skin. Then get the hydrating toner. Dab a little of this on a cotton round, remove any leftover makeup that you missed, and prep the skin to absorb your moisturizer even better. Then finish off with the hydrating retinol moisturizer from Nimi, packed with aloe vera, jojoba oil, and retinol. This is a powerful moisturizer that will diminish the appearance of pores, texture that you might have, and fine lines without sucking all the hydration out of your skin. I can see a difference instantly the next morning when I sleep in this. My skin is so much brighter. Try Nimi Skincare today with 10% off by going to NimiSkincare.com and using code AlexClark. That's NimiSkincare.com or click the link in the show notes with code AlexClark for 10% off your order. Nimi Skincare, modern skincare, timeless values.
Right, exactly. And it's even harder with these because these little guys, they're so convenient, right? I mean, they're so easy. And I think people actually even parents feel like they're a birthright of their children now that they should have one. And so
a cell phone.
Yes, a cell phone. And because, we can still be online. We can still go on the internet without any radiation exposure from wireless energy. We can do that right now.
So here's the thing. When I found out how absolutely messed up the Wi-Fi radiation was, I was like, every single night before I go to bed now, I'm going to do a hard shut off of my modem for my internet. Then I found out from following you, don't get near your modem. Don't physically bend down and touch it and be close to it. So now I'm like, wait, so we need to be shutting off our Wi-Fi at night when we sleep.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Explain why we need to be shutting our Wi-Fi off before we go to bed and then how to do it so we're not getting close to it and why we shouldn't get physically near it.
Okay, so your rest is reserved for your body's rejuvenation. This energy is fighting with your rest. This wonderful woman did this study just on Wi-Fi and cell phone radiation, and she found out that it's not just the blue light that blocks the melatonin, but the radiation itself. So, of course, that's going to interfere with sleep. And she also found brain changes because of this radiation exposure. So the idea is to get your own environment, any place that you can control, as free from this toxin as possible, especially when you sleep. So at night, before you go to bed, or just when you decide to stop using it, or anytime during the day, and I have a lot of moms who use it for their children while they nap and find that they nap so much better. You just take a little switch. This is the one that I have, and you press the remote because you don't want to get close to it, because at those antennas, you're getting the largest dose of that Wi-Fi radiation that you can possibly be exposed to, because it's radiating from those antennas, and it's radiating like a fog throughout your home. So the closer you get to it, the greater your exposure. So that's why my husband actually developed the remote for me, because
and you sell this on your website, the remote system to just turn on and off your Wi-Fi throughout your entire home very easily, correct?
Call it my Wi-Fi kill switch. And it's so funny because my husband did this 17 years ago. He knew that I was sensitive. He did not tell me. We did not have a Wi-Fi in the house. And all of a sudden I was in the TV room, and there were like 3 or 4 days and I got this amazing headache. And he goes, "Hey babe, come watch a show." I said, "I can't go in there. Something's wrong. I don't know what's happening in that room. I think there's a problem. There's like, I thought it was chemicals. There's some chemical or something in there." He said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you wouldn't notice. I put a Wi-Fi behind the TV."
You really are sensitive. That's like a superpower.
That's why I felt like it was magic. When my kids were at this age, they were like preteen, I could tell if they were up or using the Wi-Fi because I would wake up. So my husband put this remote switch on the Wi-Fi, so anytime I wanted, I could turn it off, which was all the time. And so basically it was anytime they had to have it, they would turn it on. And then of course, we moved to a home that we built, and we wired our entire home. I had this completely lovely non-EMF environment.
Now, see, this is something for people that are listening who may be building a home or something. There are ways to build your home so the Wi-Fi radiation is less potent or something, right? Could you explain that?
Actually, it's to use, like right now, I don't have a Wi-Fi in this house. I don't use Wi-Fi.
Everything's hardwired?
Everything is hardwired. My phone right now, this is hardwired. I can use
my gosh.
This phone, right? That's an adapter.
If you are watching this on the YouTube channel, you can see what August is showing. I mean, her cell phone is plugged in hard to the internet Wi-Fi, or the internet, of her house.
And this is the Ethernet cable. Okay. And so some people would say, "Oh my gosh, that's not very clean. That's so clunky." And to me, it's so healthy. I look at my wires and I'm so happy because I know that I have no exposure. And so this is how it all started. This is how we all got internet to begin with, was through an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
And so
that's why we all had a computer room in our house. That's where your computer was hooked up.
And isn't that true? Right.
Yeah.
And we usually only had one outlet. So you can design your home to have 5 outlets in every room if you want to. And I really advise that. That way the wires don't have to cross over each other, because up until this point, we haven't developed anything but the wires. And so the wires are still wires, and they do take up space and they do get in the way. So you want to roll them up when you're not using them. But I have no Wi-Fi and I communicate beautifully with everyone. I use an app called Signal, which I love because it's private as well and encrypted. And I do my chats, my video chats, my phone calls using that. On my computer, it's no different at all. I can do everything on my computer that I've always done, hardwired without a Wi-Fi. And then you turn off the Bluetooth from your computer and you disable the Wi-Fi from your computer, and your computer is free from all wireless radiation.
Okay, so what EMF protections actually work that we should be spending our money on and investing in?
Okay. My favorite EMF protection is what we just talked about. That's number one. Then there's an EMF protection called a Faraday, and that's a complete block of EMF. The problem with blocking EMF completely, and by the way, I have a beautiful Faraday bag that I use, and I love them, and I recommend that everyone carry them because it also hides your GPS signal, but you will get no signal in and no signal out of your Faraday. So it's ultimate safety for your privacy and your well-being. However, the only way that you can get signal is if your antenna is free. It's free to get the signal. And the negative part of what's called partial shielding, and You've seen those phone cases, that cover your phone, but they're still opened and they say they block EMFs. Well, the material they use blocks EMF, but the phone case could not block EMF completely and still allow you to get a call or to get a Wi-Fi signal or to get a Bluetooth signal. And so while it works, it also comes with big risks. And those risks are that at the opening, because that antenna is working so hard, help me get signal. It's reaching out with all the power it has to get signal. It's increasing your exposure wherever there's an opening to far more, most likely, than you would be exposed to if you didn't have the case on at all.
So people are I know that people are wondering, well, what if I just turn off my Wi-Fi on my phone and it's sitting on my nightstand? If I just turn off the Wi-Fi button, then am I good? Do I really have to go and turn off the whole Wi-Fi to my house?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Your worst exposure is the one right next to you, always. Very good point, Alex. And I love that you brought this up because I do recommend turning off anything you're not using on your phone anyway. If you're not using Wi-Fi, turn it off. If you're not using Bluetooth, turn it off. If you're not using the cell phone signal, turn it off. Each exposure is just one more exposure that's adding to your intake. And this is cumulative. It's a radio frequency. It's part of the EMF frequency spectrum like sunlight. So it's cumulative. So the less we can be exposed to, the better off we're going to be, all of us. And so if you have it next to your bed and you have it on airplane mode, you're not going to get any wireless radiation. All you can still use it as a clock. You can still download a podcast and listen to you even while you're on complete airplane mode, which is great. So as far as getting cell phone, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth signal, no, you would not be able to do that with it next to your bed on airplane mode. I do understand that.
This is what freaked me out.
Hello.
You posted that there are so many hidden sources of EMFs in our home that you discovered your freaking washing machine was giving off EMFs and had Bluetooth capabilities or something. Where are all of these hidden areas in our houses?
It's so crazy, Alex. And I look at, this is what I do, right? This is my life, is really helping people avoid EMF and helping avoid the toxins. And I get a new washer and dryer. And I get it because the other ones break down. I go to Costco, get the exact same ones I had before. They fit right up on the little pedestals, and I'm doing laundry. I actually love to do laundry. And I'm getting these major headaches like 3 days in a row. I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And then it occurred to me, oh my gosh, there's a cell phone down here. Somebody left a cell phone here. So I take my meter and I go down into the laundry room. And no, it was not a cell phone. There were two Wi-Fis, one inside the washer, one inside the dryer.
Why does a washing machine need Wi-Fi? Why did they even put that there?
So that you can control it from your phone.
Control
LG.
what? Like start the dryer? I don't even understand that.
Turn off the dryer, see when your load is finished, right? It's just getting to the point of being so ridiculous. It's called the Internet of Things. I don't agree with it at all. I think it's such overkill, but it's an option that I wish I was able to turn off. I tried so hard to turn it off. I got in touch with the company. They said, oh, sure, just do this. No, the signal was verified by this meter, and it never went away until I hired somebody to open up the washer and dryer, and I got my meter, and we found the antennas and we disconnected them.
Oh my gosh. Now this is something I know people are going to wonder. Is it worth it to hire somebody to come out and check your home for EMF exposure, or is it totally something that you and your husband or you yourself can just do on your own?
For me, since I've done this for so long, absolutely. I can easily go anywhere. I take my meters to the hotel rooms and I disconnect things. I would say, I love my building biologist consultants. They are amazing. At the same time, they come to check your EMF. They can check your air quality and your mold. So that's great. But if I was on a budget and I was concerned about this at all, I would get a meter. And I would get a meter not just for the wireless energy, but that would be my top one if I can only have one. Or I would get 2 meters, one that would help me see the invisible magnetic and electric energy, which honestly, it comes just from your outlets, and it's different. It's not as studied as the wireless, but for a lot of people who are sensitive, it's a concern. And you know what you do about that? You get away from it. And that's the problem with the wireless energy. We're surrounded by it. But the electrical current in our homes, typically we can pull our bed a foot away from the outlet and we are far enough away from it that the energy has dissipated. Like I said, it's like a cigarette, and at the very core of the cigarette, that's where the antenna is. And as that smoke comes out, it's thick, and then it gets less and less and less as it travels across the room. That's how it is with wireless energy. The further you are from it, the less you're exposed to. So that's why I think a wireless meter is your number one buy.
Where do you get that?
Then we offer them on Talk Wellness, and you can look up EMF meter. I've chosen the ones that I like best, that have worked best for me. Please don't get a cheap one on Amazon. If you have one, throw it away, because they're not certified and they haven't even been calibrated. Back when I first bought meters, I would send them to an engineer to be calibrated. Now, most of the good meters come calibrated. So they're certified to work, they're accurate, they're calibrated, all the meters that I offer. And I do offer a tri-field meter that can measure all 3 of those different types of energies that I was just talking about. But it doesn't give you the super accurate RF measurement, but it lets you know that it's there. It can help you find the hidden stuff. And so you can walk around your house and go, whoa, my vacuum cleaner has wireless? I had no idea.
Oh my gosh. What? And you're taking these meters to even your hotel rooms and stuff when you travel too, right? You should take this everywhere you go.
I do. I mean, I do, because it's so important to me. And like I said, I don't want to be at dinner and start feeling badly. And so I have my meter. I have a very small portable one. It's so awesome. Just about this big. And I take it to restaurants and I decide where I'm going to sit.
Now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just look for the lowest exposure in the room. And of course, there's very rarely going to be a completely safe exposure in any public place anymore. But I do find the safest place for me.
What is the deal with replacing the light bulbs on your end table lamps in your bedroom with red ones?
Well, okay, that's more of a color temperature thing. That's not going to change the EMF, except light is an EMF. So in that sense, it will. But all of these LEDs that we've been required to use now, a federal requirement, right? Which I'm not in love with, and I think a lot of people feel the same, but apparently they're energy saving. They are the hottest, bluest light of the spectrum. And so there are certain things that you can do. You can change that color temperature. And so that's what we're talking about. Replace it with a warm color temperature that doesn't have that excruciatingly painful, ugly, white, blue light.
And that's good for trying to get in the mode to sleep better. That's why your end table lamps, you should switch out those bulbs to be red. But you think the light bulbs in our house, all of those should be changed out anyway? Regular light bulbs?
Well, there are certain things, and you need to get a really good quality one, because the problem with LEDs, and I'm thinking that most people are getting LEDs now, they have this flicker. And some of the flicker is imperceptible, but there's the flicker that you can really see. And even though you can't see it, your brain can see that imperceptible flicker. And that can cause neurological issues and anxiety. And so if you can make sure you have a good quality light with good quality drivers or power, like you never want to try to dim one of these lights, because as you dim them, you take their power away, and that's when the flicker starts. And here's a tip too for your screen. Try to use your screen full power, because you will receive less of the pulsating light and have less of the flicker, because what's happening behind the screen is it's fighting for the power too. And so it's having irregular power, and that can cause a flicker that either you see or you don't see, but it can make you tired. And so if you turn your brightness up all the way, you're giving your computer full power. And then to deal with that blue light, you can use a software that's free like Flux, or you can get a screen cover that either has an amber tone to block that blue light, or somehow dims the blue light. And we offer those too, and people just love them. They feel better looking at their screens.
And blue light glasses, you think that's not a scam? That's a real thing you should get?
Oh my goodness. So not a scam. Yes. As a matter of fact, these that I had on earlier, these block And all clear glasses only block a bit, 35 to 45%. So these kinds of glasses that just block a bit of the blue light, I'm using now inside because we're just getting, just like the radiation, we have such an intense amount of blue light around us now. And now blue light is not bad. Let's get that on the table right away. Blue light, the kind that comes from the sun, this kind that we're exposed to the minute that the sun rises, that's blue light. That's so good for our bodies at the right time. In fact, we hear about melatonin, right? We hear it helps us produce melatonin. It helps us produce good hormones. It helps us focus. So blue light at the right time is beautiful and so good for our body and for our eyes. The problem with too much blue light is that, can you imagine, and I liken it to, just go outside, stare at the sky. Can you imagine just staring at a bright blue sky for 8 or 9 or 10 hours?
No.
That's what we're doing.
Oh, you're so right.
Right?
Yeah.
So as far as the blue light blockers, I love my orange glasses. I have these really like orange glasses, that wrap around because for me, it comes from here. It comes from here. It comes from here. So I want to be protected from as much of the blue light as possible at the right time, which is sunset. If we can, just vibe with the natural rhythm of the universe, the sunrise and the sunset. So sunset means no blue light. And so around your home, candlelight doesn't have blue light.
I brought this up in my Dr. Courtney Kayla episode. I said to her, and she did not know what I was talking about, which is funny because she knows everything, but that was the first she'd heard of it. I said, Courtney, there are people who are turning off all of the lights in their house at a certain time and only using candles. And I said, are you doing that yet? She's like, that's the first I've heard of that. But you're bringing it up. I am not crazy. That is something people are doing now.
I hear from a lot of moms, and the reason that they're doing it is because they just want the most natural, healthiest environment for their children. And so they're getting something called the EMF whole house kill switch, where they attach to your circuit breakers the ability to turn off all the power in your home. And so that means zero electricity. Maybe they reserve some for the hallway or, maybe the parents' bedrooms. But this way their kids will have zero EMF exposure. And that's a trend. And for me, I haven't done that, haven't needed to or actually wanted to, but I love the candlelight. And
Here's what I'm saying. August, we are going to make it a thing where women are going to be walking around like Winnie the Pooh in his little nightcap and his nightgown with his little candle. That's the vibe.
They're going to be so healthy and feel so good. Well, one thing for sure, it's going to help their sleep.
Yes.
Because they're just, like, what else are you going to do in the candlelight, right?
Okay, so let's talk fitness tracking devices. Apple Watch versus Oura Ring, which is better?
Well, actually, the Apple Watch can go on airplane mode and it can take your data. And the Oura Ring can go on airplane mode and it can take your data. However, the Apple Watch seems to somehow, I've been measuring it. I bought one to try and see, well, what's the real deal with this? And by the way, the magnetic EMF, and there's a one sentinel study on magnetic EMF that I'll touch on in a second, but the magnetic EMF on an Apple Watch never stops, airplane mode or not. And then also the screen is lit. And so that gives you a blue light exposure. And I'll probably also some of that magnetic EMF. The Oura Ring doesn't have either. The new generation Oura Ring, unfortunately, does have some lights that flash all night that really bug a lot of people. And I don't recommend that. I had an old Oura Ring and it was fabulous, but they both have to be turned on and synced with your phone in order to get the data. So I opt for a wireless fitness tracker, and it gives me very little information, but it's enough for me.
What is it that you're using?
I'm using, I'll link it. I found one on Amazon that links my steps. So it does my steps. It reminds me to drink water, and really, it tells me the time, and that's about it, and how long I've been exercising. And now I have had Apple Watch and Oura Ring experience, and I know the incredible amount of data. I think that's good for a short period of time. I think it's nice to get like a benchmark of maybe point out something that maybe you can work on. But I think that self, and it's more than reflection. It becomes like a self-obsession, honestly. It's just too much for a balanced life. I don't think they bring balance to life at all. And they're so disruptive.
Yes. Is it more dangerous to use your phone while it's charging?
Of course. It is much more dangerous to use it while it's charging because the way it charges is via electricity. And those electric fields are screaming as your phone is being charged. So please, that's probably the ultimately worst time to use your phone is while it's charging. There's this great thing that my friend Sean Cranish developed where he takes a regular USB outlet and grounds it so that there's no electrical current coming from it, which is awesome. And so you're not exposed to any of that, but that's a very special connection. I'm hoping to see many more of those. His comes right now in I'm using one right now. It comes with outlets as well to electricity, but it's an amazing benefit. And by the way, it used to be that all of the original Apple products came grounded, but now they don't anymore.
Of course.
The original chargers were really good.
When it comes to dating, if we have learned anything from history, it's that you can win over almost any man's heart if he has a full stomach. I'm going to pause for those of you listening to this in the car and your husband is next to you. He's nodding, isn't he? Hey, that's my boy. Look, you got to be prepared at a moment's notice, ladies, to cook up the best steak he's ever had. Whether you're married or not, you got to keep your freezer locked and loaded with the best steaks in America from Good Ranchers. We have a broken food system in America. We haven't been able to trust the meat from a traditional grocery store in years. Inflated prices make it even worse. We're getting less of the good stuff in our meat, more of the bad, and they make you pay more for it. Stop buying garbage food for you and your family. It's time to switch to Good Ranchers. When you subscribe, your price is locked in for 2 full years. Enjoy 0% meat inflation for 24 months. Good Ranchers beef is born and raised in America. It's always USDA graded prime or upper choice, which are the 2 highest grades beef can receive in America. It's also aged 21 days to reach optimal tenderness and the most flavor possible. And it's grass-fed and grain-finished. Good Ranchers chicken is better than organic. Their pork is prime pork. Now, what is that? Think of it like prime steak. It has more marbling, better coloring, and is more tender by 25% over other pork. This is 100% American-raised pork that you can trust, and your mouth will water over. Use my code Clark to get $30 off your box of America's best beef, chicken, and pork today. Go to goodranchers.com/Clark with code Clark for $30 off, or click the link in the description. If you're already subscribed to Good Ranchers for their beef or chicken, make sure you try the new prime pork. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. Now, is EMF protective clothing like a gimmick, or does that actually work?
Now, this is very interesting because just like I was explaining that the material that's used in those cases definitely blocks the EMF. So any metallic material will reflect these electric invisible energies away. And so this metallic material does reflect this invisible energy that's coming at you from wherever your body is protected. If this was an EMF protective shirt, I'd be protected here. I'd be protected here. I would not have any EMF exposure. However, that reflection, and I have a video where I demonstrate this, it has to go somewhere. It will reflect back out. And as it does, it can pull, it can bounce against other things that are metal in your home corners, and it can actually grow. It can grow in exposure. And that exposure, where is it going to go? To my thyroid, to my nose, to my brain, to my ears, to my head, to my hands, to anything that's not covered. So
that makes sense.
It's not without risk.
Now, I also want to bring up that this isn't like something that the American health and wellness community all of a sudden is like, ooh, Wi-Fi is bad. Other countries are taking precautions against EMF exposure, correct?
Oh, and so much better than us. Yeah.
What are they doing?
Well, in France, there are no phones allowed at school. I think the It started out that it was 12, and then I think it went up to 14. So they don't even want any exposure at school. They don't want Wi-Fi's in schools. They're taking steps to eliminate all cell phone radiation exposure and Wi-Fi radiation exposure from kids' classrooms. And I would love to see that happen here. There is one great organization here that's trying to get that, enlightenment brought to schools. And instead, what do we do here?
We give them tablets.
Yes. We give them a tablet. It just breaks my heart. It's wild, because if we are giving them tablets and they have to have a computer in the school, then download lesson plans, download homework, download the videos that you want them to watch, and mandatory no power during, or no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no cell phone radiation ever on those things while the kids are using them. I mean, that would be easy and not a huge change from what we're doing now. Just a more regulated and controlled and balanced way to use them.
How dangerous is it for a man to carry a cell phone in his front pocket?
Well, there's two reasons why he shouldn't. One, because of the heat of the phone, and the other because of the invisible radiation. So Dr. Huberman came out and said that, he's looking into EMF, and I'm so happy that he is. But he said, he wasn't sure whether it was the radiation or the heating effect, and to make sure that he didn't put it, because it absolutely was affecting sperm health and sperm quality and the number of sperm. So that's why a man never wants to do that. And so then you can also go even further and think about prostate cancer, or prostate issues. So yeah, you don't want to have it there. And you don't want to have it in the back pocket either, because that's where we generate our blood supply, right? That's the biggest bone of our body. So to me, you just don't want to have that on. You don't want it in your bra. But so that's why I think it's very dangerous for men. And there was a study done in China where they took the cell phone out of it, and they just exposed men to sitting near a Wi-Fi. And
what did they find?
Same thing happened with sperm count and sperm quality. Yes.
Okay, now here's what I heard. Is this correct or not? What I heard is that EMF exposure can what I heard is that EMF exposure can deplete vitamin B6. And is it true that higher B6 levels in women mean increased fertility, lower likelihood of miscarriage? And so EMF exposure is contributing to possibly miscarriages and fertility issues in women?
There's an amazing study done by Kaiser Permanente of thousands of women that they followed through their pregnancy, and they even put meters on their abdomen. They wore these little belts, and then they also self-reported what they were being exposed to. And the amazing percentage of increase of those who had the more radiation increase they had, the more miscarriages. And then they also followed, in a separate study, they followed babies who'd been exposed, and there were more mental health issues for those children.
Absolutely
as they grew up. Yeah, there's so many reasons. There's so much, I'm sure, that we could research and find even more connections. But we do know one mechanism of harm is coming through cell, and not cell phone, but cells, the cells in our bodies, cell dysregulation and cell death. Because we're electrical beings, and our cells are little electrical circuits inside of our bodies. And so they're finding that they're not opening and closing like they're supposed to, and letting all this calcium into the channels, into the cells where they shouldn't be. And so they call this cell dysregulation. This has been shown in research report after research report after research report. And a scientist named Martin Pall put all the reports together and brought this to the attention. And what happens with this is it causes a cascade of oxidative stress. And we know all of the different things that oxidative stress can lead to, namely cancer. So there's so many reasons, I think, just so many practical reasons, and so many scientific reasons that we should be avoiding the exposure at every turn, whenever we can. And I know it's impossible to avoid all of it, but as much as we possibly can. And like I said, especially, you're pregnant, you're growing a baby, be ultra careful, like you are with your food and your emotional stress. It's just like, this is the time. And while we sleep is in our homes, we need to be safe in our homes because right now we really can't control what's happening outside our homes.
What is the 20-20-20 rule that you promote and talk about?
It means that right now we should stop and take, because it's been 20 minutes, we should take 20 seconds and look at least 20 feet away so that our eyes can avoid eye strain. This is just another one of the toxic effects of tech, right? It's this eye strain that we're all feeling and these headaches just from looking at our screens too long and not taking breaks. I actually like to go 20-22 and take 2 minutes off and stretch and move and, just think of some happy thoughts just to refocus and think about what I've been doing for 20 minutes online. And this has been a really good 20 minutes for me.
It's been such a good 20 minutes for me. I think it's been like 40, but
okay.
I have a couple more things that are huge that you talk about that I have never had a guest talk on, and that is 5G exposure. What is 5G exposure? I don't even know what 5G is. I'm genuinely.
And this is another complicated one. I'll try to make it really, really simple. But 5G, actually, so we had the 1G, and that started out in 1983, and G stands for generation. So our phone started in the 80s with 1G, and then I think it's in the 90s we popped into 2G, and then 3G was the late 90s, and then 4G was in the 2000s. And every single time we got a better generation, we got more speed. There was more things we could do on our cell phone. We got better connection. And so as this happened, the industry wanted more. They wanted us to have more connectivity because they started thinking about the Internet of Things. And in those first Gs, it was just communication with each other. But then they wanted communication with things like the oven and the washer and the dryer and the refrigerator, really, and the Nest security system. So in order to do that, they realized they were going to have to open up more of the spectrum. And in 2016, the FCC made a big announcement. They were opening up this part of the spectrum that was higher than any other of the spectrum that had already been utilized for cell phone communication. Remember how I told you there was this big long spectrum? Well, the waves at the bottom of the spectrum are longer, okay? And then as the waves get to the higher part of the spectrum, they get shorter. They go more like this. And so those shorter waves travel shorter distances. I'm getting to the point. So now that we're up in the high part of the spectrum, and it's anything over, I think, like 24 gigahertz, and it goes all the way up to 100 gigahertz. So that part of the spectrum is a new wave called the millimeter wave. And the problem with that, they knew immediately that you had to see that antenna and it had to be close in order for that antenna to get to your computer. So they said, well, prepare. Every block or so,
they're going to put up those towers.
That's it.
And they hide them. They look like trees or something.
It gave permission.
Okay, so would you, would you ever consider buying a house if you knew that it was close to a 5G tower?
Absolutely not, because that's where the source is strongest. And the worst part about these, the worst thing is, this really gave permission to the industry and the government to tell cities, you cannot decide if you get a tower or not. They're coming in and they attach to them small cells. Now, small cells are boosters or Wi-Fi's or even little mini cell antennas, but they're not miniature. They're just as powerful because they're so close to you. So it's not just that millimeter wave, which, by the way, has not been studied adequately at all. In fact, we can't even right now at this very moment tell if we're being exposed to it.
We're being microwaved. We're being microwaved and we don't even know.
Well, it's a different part of the spectrum, but yes, there are radio frequencies that we have not been exposed to, except when you walk through the airport security, that's a millimeter wave. And we know that it affects us differently. But like I said, we're not sure. It hasn't been studied enough. The industry did one small study and said, hey, it's good to go. But the more that we have it in our devices, and by the way, if you have an iPhone 12, or if you have a new Android phone or anything past an iPhone 12, you have one of these millimeter wave antennas built right into your phone.
So then what should we be doing? Like, is there a certain type of cell phone, smartphone that we should be using only?
Well, I say don't get anything past 11 for me, because then I won't at least be exposed to that new millimeter wave that hasn't been tested.
I just feel like they stop working. Like Apple makes it so that after 2 years, your phone just starts having all these issues so that you will get a new one. You don't have that problem?
Kind of feels that way, doesn't it? No, I start to feel like I have that problem, but I think as long as Apple is selling the refurbished 11s, that they're going to back them and they're still going to work. But I know what you're talking about. I hear it from people all the time, but not with the 11 yet.
Okay.
And then I think that maybe eventually we'll go to like the Medita phone or the Light phone. They just have the capability of only texting and talking. I mean, that's extreme, but that's also an option. But as far as keeping your phone safe, like I said, turn off as many functions as possible. But this millimeter wave, they say that we're able to turn it off on an iPhone, but until we find a meter that we can use, I mean, I'm sure that the cell phone industry has the meters that show if they're working. But as far as a consumer or even a professional model, they don't yet exist. There was one that came to market, it got problems, and I'm waiting for another one to come to market. And of course, I'll be offering it and using it. But until that such time, that's what 5G is. It was the basis for this millimeter wave. But then they said, hey, you know what? We need all that 3G and 4G stuff too, so that we can communicate even more. And that's what's happened. And now we're just exposed, all of us, to more of the energy because we have these towers located so close to one another and just about everywhere. They just put one up about a block and a half away. I went and stood in front of it and took an intake. Not in front. I mean, in the parking lot across the street from the building, not right next to it.
Yeah.
And I'll show you the video. I was exposed to extreme radiation, as if I was holding my phone, but I wasn't.
We are awake. We don't trust big tech. We don't trust big pharma, and we don't trust big food. Have you ever bought orange juice at the store for yourself or a loved one when they're sick, right? You got to get that vitamin C. And even though you meant to do good with that purchase, chances are you gave them or yourself juice full of terrible ingredients or excess amounts of sugar. That's not going to make you feel better. It's going to make you feel a lot worse. I'm a huge juice person, which is why I have switched to Squeezed Juice. That's the brand name, and they're fresh and family-owned right in California. It's 100% juice, all natural, not from concentrate, and has no water added. Their mandarin juice is where it is at, ladies. All of Squeezed Juice is fresh pressed and HPP pasteurized. It's non-GMO, amazing. When you drink Squeezed Juice delivered ice cold on dry ice straight to your door, you get to keep all the vitamins and nutrients you want and expect in a juice. This is the closest thing to squeezing your own fruit juice, except you don't have to do it yourself, right? Squeezed Juice will do it for you. All of their pomegranates and all of their mandarins are grown by conservative California family farmers. There are 5 flavors, all 100% juice, pomegranate, mandarin, and 3 functional juices. There's Power, a green juice with a blend of amazing ingredients like matcha, spinach, cucumber, and celery to power you through your day. Immunity, which is full of vitamin C. We talked about what to drink when you're sick. You get a kick from ginger, turmeric, and habanero pepper. It is absolutely delicious. It's also my favorite thing to drink before and after I get on a flight. And their Focus Juice, which provides natural energy from a plant called guarana with a taste of beets and strawberries. One 11-ounce bottle of the Focus Juice is equal to 1.5 cups of coffee. Squeezed Juice is for the whole family. And when you place your order, make sure you'll be home in the next couple of days because it ships fast. Like this is like speedy, and it's on dry ice. You want to put that in your fridge right away. You're going to love it. No chunks, no pulp. It's perfect juice coming from me, the pickiest eater on the planet. So you have to believe it. Use promo code ALEX for 25% off at checkout. Code ALEX is good for a one-time purchase or subscription, okay? Go to shop.squeezedjuice.com with code ALEX for 25% off Squeezed Juice. That's shop.squeezedjuice.com with code ALEX, or click the link in the show notes. Ooh, okay, you brought up something that reminded me. You brought up the Nest security systems. And I think the biggest hesitancy people have with unplugging their Wi-Fi at night or turning it off is, well, what about my home security systems? What about my baby monitor that runs on Wi-Fi? What do people do about that?
And that is a very valid point. And unfortunately, you can't turn off your Wi-Fi and keep your Nest working. There are some options, and I have them here in this house. I hardwired my security system. And I found a company to do it. An alarm company, an audio visual company will hardwire your system. Do I have as many bells and whistles? No. Am I still able to go to the security panel and turn it on? Yes. So did I take out my Google doorbell? Yes. And I put in a hardwired doorbell because coming from that Google doorbell was the same amount of radiation that came from my phone. So I'm so happy that you're talking about the baby monitors. I'm wishing, hoping, praying for an association with any baby monitor company to work with me in creating a wired baby monitor. Right now on my website, I take a camera that you can buy on Amazon and I show you how to hardwire it, and you can even work with the electricity through your home. It's not perfect, but you can see the baby and hear the baby on your hardwired tablet. So it's an option. If you must have one of those wireless baby monitors in your baby's room, get it as far away from your baby as possible.
Great advice. Great advice. Now, if someone was about to walk through their house today and they were going to start making changes to be less toxic, what are the very first things they should do today?
Okay. First of all, never put that laptop on your lap, ever. With a shield, without a shield, do not put that laptop on your lap. Imagine the exposure that you're getting, not because it's sitting on your organs, because usually it sits on your thighs, but because that exposure goes right up to all of your reproductive organs, to your heart, to your thyroid. So please do not put your laptop on your lap. Ditch the AirPods. I know.
We have been preaching this. August, we have been preaching this all year. I have had every wellness guest I've had on, I've asked them that. And I said, it's microwaving your brain, isn't it? And they've said, yes, stop. We are doing wired headphones only.
That's just such music to my ears, such a blessing. And AirTube headsets are even better than wired headsets because in the event that some extraneous radiation crawls up those wires, it stops with this tube of air. Okay, so any AirTube headset will do this. I like mine because they're feminine and beautiful. And they feel so comfortable in my ear. They're nice and lightweight. But get some wired headsets for absolutely sure. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night or anytime you're not using it. Moms tell me their kids nap better than ever before when they do this. And back to those AirPods, I just got a letter from someone who told me, hey, what should I do about this? I've been wearing sleep buds, which are AirPods at night, those sleep buds, for 2 years. And I developed a lump in my ear.
No.
I went to the doctor, and this is like the third time I've heard of something like this. Even my neighbor had this happen with AirPods, but this just came through like last week. And he said he has a lump in his ear. And the crazy thing is, he said the doctor said it checked out, it was okay. But every time a phone rings anywhere, his ear vibrates. And he said,
I got chills.
Right? He said, what can I do? I said, I am so sorry. I would do everything I could to get help in every other way and hope that your body will overcome this for you. Because I've never heard of this. But we're all different and we all have different weaknesses. But anyway, never put your phone in your bra. That's a very simple one. When you're carrying your phone, please try to carry it on airplane mode. Watch my video about phantom airplane mode because there's a new battery that put inside your iPhone that will keep it on even when it's off. And there's also a function where even when you think your phone is on airplane, it isn't. So you have to go to settings. So just tricks like that. Just really make sure that you're exposed to as little as possible. If you know you've got a ring or a nest, it might be a good time to unplug something that's right near the kids' bedrooms. Make sure that Wi-Fi is far away from sleeping areas and living areas for your family as possible. And consider if you have a Wi-Fi, considering hardwiring it. It's a really simple fix. It's not hardwiring your house. That's huge. But a small thing to do is take the Wi-Fi, take that connection that comes out the Wi-Fi and connect it to something that splits the signal to 5 different things. And just try using the computer and your phone with a wired connection.
Just knowing my audience as well as I do, we have a really open relationship where we're always talking about the episodes and all that. And I just know this is going to be one of the most shared episodes we've ever done. And all the women listening are going to be sending this to their husbands saying, honey, you've got to listen to this podcast. We have a lot of changes that we have to make. So incredible advice. I believe life-changing advice and extremely important when we're talking health and wellness. Yes, beauty products and food and all that, but also tech wellness. All of the things that you've talked about, all of the products that you've created to help with this, where do they find them?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Alex. At techwellness.com. And then also we have an Instagram, Tech Wellness. We have Facebook, Tech Wellness. And I'm going to send you links to the research that we talked about. So people can just very easily show their husbands, here's what it says right here.
We will put all of that in the show notes of the episode.
Read the research. Even if you're looking for EMF protection, that like a harmonizer that says it's research, really look at that research. I think most of us are smart enough to know that two people in a research, like a junior high experiment, does not make for research. So I welcome people to read the research and just make the decision for themselves.
August, thank you for coming on The Spillover.
Thank you so much, Alex. Be well.
I just realized I started out the month of August with a guest named August. I didn't even think about that until now. How kismet. Her Instagram and website are both just incredible. They are like treasure troves of content and knowledge. That's at Tech Wellness on Instagram or techwellness.com. So much info, easy to understand, beautifully done. If living more holistically and non-toxic interests you, then you will love her stuff. She has changed everything in her house, from her paint to her cleaning products. So she has tons of videos and stuff about all of these different things if you really want to do an overhaul. Also, did you know that like if you're building a house, you can build it totally non-toxic. You can hardwire your internet. You can use certain types of fabrics on your furniture, paint. Like there's so much that you can do to change the trajectory of your family's house just by like what you build your house with. I mean, all of this, I know some of you guys have been like crunchy for decades and you're like, Alex, we're so happy to finally see you on this train. So for those of you that have like been here, done this, and you know all of it, like thank you so much for being patient with me and just like enjoying me going down this journey and path with you. But for those of you that are like me and this is new, like I know this is mind-blowing, but I just think it's so fun. Getting rid of your Bluetooth crap is just an extension of this health and wellness journey. Now, next Thursday is a highly requested topic. I've never had anyone to talk about this. It is going to be about what you can really eat while pregnant. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of do's and don'ts. But what's actually true? What's actually backed in science? I'm speaking to one of the smartest pre- and post-labor dietitians out there at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. That's next Thursday. And there has been a YouTube overhaul. If you want more from me than just one Spillover episode a week, first of all, thank you. Honored. Subscribe to Real Alex Clark on YouTube. This week, I gave my review on Barbie. I posted a video on what science says your body count can determine about your marriage. And of course, all the Spillover episodes are there if you like to watch them, not just listen. That's Real Alex Clark on YouTube. Subscribe there and subscribe to this podcast. Do me a huge favor. Share this podcast with one new person this week who you know has never listened. Or better yet, your Instagram story. I'm Alex Clark, and this is The Spillover. Love you, mean it. Bye.